Okay, first thing you want to do before you do any type of grouting, you want to make sure that all your grout joints are cleaned of excess thin set, good as you could get them, and make sure there's no excess residue of thin set on the tile surface. What you want to do is take a damp sponge and wipe down everything, make sure it's nice and clean, because if you don't, you're going to be sitting there picking out thin set out of your grout joints or on the tile as you grout. You do not want to be doing that. Okay, anytime you're grouting too, you want to make sure you wear a good pair of rubber gloves, because grout will dry out your skin very badly, just put it that way. You want to make sure you wear a good set of gloves. Now, when you're mixing your grout, you can either use a mixer or margin trowel, whatever works for you. And when you mix it, you want to kind of have like a peanut butter consistency to it. You don't want it too wet because it's going to end up getting air bubbles in there. It's going to take forever to dry. This is a weaker grout. You don't want it too dry because you won't be able to spread it and get it in the joints good. So you kind of want it right in the middle when you're using it. Now, as you use your grout, it'll start drying up on you in the bucket. So what you could do is just remix it every 10-15 minutes as needed. Also, when you're grouting, you want to make sure you pack your joints as good as possible, not just one way and then you're done with it. You want to make sure you go multiple different ways, pack those joints as good as you possibly can. The technique that I like to use when I'm grouting big open areas like this, and anytime in the field of the tile, not the corners or perimeters, what I like to do is just take the grout float, put it at a low angle, almost flat, not completely flat, but just a low angle, and spread the grout out a good amount of area. Just get it in the joints there pretty good, then come across on a sharp angle like a 45-degree and then scrape off your excess grout. Make sure you get as much as you can off. It'll be a little bit easier to wash later on. Okay, now as far as when to wash the grout off, I've been doing it for so long that I just know by looking at it and by the feel. But generally, when it doesn't stick to your finger, your dry finger, when you touch the surface of the tile, it's pretty much ready to go. If you go too early, what's going to happen is start creating air pockets and voids in the grout. And if you wait too long, you're just going to be sitting there scrubbing like hell. Then you take the grout out of the joints trying to get the excess off. So you really want to work in small areas here. I spread out a pretty large area. I don't recommend this for someone who doesn't have the experience. So work in small areas and wash it off as needed. But here's my first wash after I spread the grout. What I like to do is just go in circular motion in small areas. Now when you use the sponge, you want to make sure you wring out as much possible as you can of water. You don't want it soaked with water, you just want it a little bit damp. So I like to use both sides of the sponge. Basically you shape your joints, get all the excess off, just go in circles there, and that's your first wash. Okay, now it's time for your second wash. Same procedure, wring out your sponge as much as you possibly can. Now, for your second wash, all you want to do is you want to wipe the grout in one direction with the one side of the sponge only one time. Do not go back and forth because you're going to put the grout back on. It's just one time each way. I like to do the perimeter first, and then once you do the perimeter, you could go in a semicircle like that or on a diagonal. And by doing a diagonal or a semicircle, as you see here, prevents you from pulling the grout out of the joints. And that's what you really do not want to do. You want to keep that grout in there. If you wipe it all different directions, all you're going to be doing is just smearing the grout all on the face of the tile. You have to keep. So just one way each time on the sponge, and that's it. And rewashing. Just continue this procedure throughout the whole floor. That's your second wash. As far as your third wash goes, I do not have footage of that, but it's the same procedure as the second wash. Same thing, go on diagonal, get the excess off, and once you do a third wash, you should pretty much have next to nothing for grout haze. You should be completely grout haze free. Now, if there's still a little bit of haze, you could wait till the next day, let that grout dry up, because if you keep washing, it's going to keep re-wetting it and pulling it out. But basically, if there is a little bit of haze, wait till the next day. Just wait overnight. Don't wait multiple days, but just overnight. Come back the next morning, and just do the same procedure as you do with the third wash. Just one time on each side of the sponge, and that's it. And you should be good to go. And this is your finished product: 6 by 36-inch wood look planks, all grouted up with Tech Power Grout.